As the first African woman to receive this prize, I accept it on behalf of the people of Kenya and Africa, and indeed the whole world.
The incredible Wangari Maathai from Kenya was the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize, dedicating her life to human dignity and gender equality. She had an incredible career that had so many setbacks, and the question is, how did she persevere right through all of them? What lessons can we learn as we battle our imposter syndrome? All that and more in today's episode. Let's go. Hi, I'm Dr. Pauline Kantoe, and welcome to another episode of African Tech Stories, where we share the incredible stories of African tech champions and innovators that are shaping the future of the African continent. Today is a very interesting podcast because we are going through the second step, or at least the second type of imposter syndrome, and it is quite an interesting one because it is all around kind of the superhuman syndrome, the idea where as a perfectionist you can also show traits of a superhuman, essentially someone who is a high achiever, who essentially wants to just consistently show that he can do more and more and more and be the first in everything, and essentially a hard worker at first. So there are different types, of course, of an imposter syndrome, which essentially tries to ensure that you show only your best self. But they are, of course, we went through about 2 weeks ago, we went through the perfectionism syndrome, where we tied the life of an incredible revolutionary, Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso, and how his perfectionist nature essentially allowed him to achieve incredible feats at a cost. And today we're talking about the superhuman syndrome, which is essentially someone who has achieved amazing things and has potentially being susceptible to burnout, susceptible to different things that we will talk about today. So there's a high expectation. There is a need to prove oneself, and that is something that one needs to always watch out for. So today's podcast is really around trying to unpack that and making sure that we are able to get to a resolution on how do we move forward. If you're enjoying this video up to this point and you feel like this resonates with you and you do struggle with the sense of overachievement, with the sense of just not knowing how to overcome burnout, I suggest you click on the description that comes with this audio podcast or this video, which is my 3 months coaching program where I do a one-on-one coaching session. And really we go through technical proficiency, technical communication, a mindset, going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, trying to really destruct negative thoughts, and as we go through specific kind of methods to try and help you become your best self at work, but also flow into your best self at home. Technically speaking, this could be a program for you. So I suggest that you click on the description that comes with this podcast or this video and really start seeing how you can change your life. This essentially will be a free consultation, 45-minute session with me at first, and we will go through a questionnaire that you can fill in again for free, and I will give you a report on how you can start already kind of putting some practicals in place and potentially start going onto that journey to become your better self. So if you're interested, click on the description that comes with this video or audio podcast. So, if we were to really break down what is a superhuman syndrome, it's really around high achievers. So, if you're in a workplace and you see someone who consistently achieves really high standards, their code is super clean, hardly any mistakes ever, this is a person who has, from a self-reflection perspective, is susceptible to being to have a superhuman syndrome, which essentially is part and parcel of an imposter syndrome. And they need to overwork and come up early at work and work late and consistently do that, right? Once in a while it's okay, but for someone who's known for that can potentially be seen as someone who suffers potentially from a superhuman syndrome. And so we need to kind of tie this to the life of Wangari Maathai.
Professor Wangari Maathai always believed that when women are supported, they can achieve so much.
Wangari Maathai is a superhuman. She is standard all out. There is nothing that tells us otherwise, that this woman, out of the environment where she came from, is nothing short of a superwoman. And she changed the face of Kenya. She really had incredible highlights. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us today. She was born in 1940 and unfortunately died of illness in 2011. But she was an environmentalist, a political activist, the first woman, like I said in the beginning, first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004. And she's best known for founding an incredible movement called the Green Belt Movement, which focused on tree planting, environmental conservation, and women's rights all together. And this movement essentially encouraged and brought a sense of purpose to rural women who were marginalized, who were essentially sidelined by society, to empower them through the environment as a sustainable and long-lasting solution to get them out of poverty. Incredible story of having the environment and kind of the indigenous people in that environment being empowered and having positive feedback to that same environment. Incredible story. And simultaneously, like I said, just empowering them, providing them jobs. Essentially, you can think about it, right? What does a tree do? What does a tree do for an environment? How does it help with soil erosion? How does it help with soil quality? How does it help with shading for different types of plantation? And how does it help the economy as a whole from a carbon dioxide and also from a just overall cleanliness around a specific farm? It's an incredible story. Her environmental efforts were met with, of course, with political opposition, especially from Kenya's government under President Daniel Arap Moi. Maathai activism highlighted the government's role in environmental degradation. So what does that mean? It means essentially the government, because of the need to, at the time, to try and speed up the economy, there was no agenda for the environment. There was no agenda to ensure that the companies that came into the Kenyan economy were conscious of keeping a certain level of environmental measures. And essentially, soil erosion through chemicals and so forth was really fast-tracked and uncontrolled. And she was against that, so essentially against the government's agenda. So she faced intimidation. She was arrested multiple times. She had violent confrontations during a successful campaign to stop the construction of a skyscraper in Nairobi, Uhuru Park, in the late 1980s. Incredible stories. If you haven't seen it, there are documentaries on this around the internet, specifically in YouTube. You can read it on Wikipedia. This woman was a one-woman show when it came to linking environment and empowerment of women all around Kenya and eventually all around the world. So despite these challenges, Maathai's perseverance transformed through the Green Belt movement into a global force. Listen to this, with over 51 million trees planted. Her work connected environmental sustainability with democracy, peace, human rights, making her a symbol of relentless advocacy for social and ecological justice across Africa. So she had resilience and relentlessness to pursue her goals despite barriers. So how does this tie with Wangari Maathai and the topic of today, which is essentially the superhuman syndrome and as an offset of perfectionism, and how do we have to deal with it? This came through personal sacrifice. I think this is so important, that there's nothing for free. There is nothing for free. There's nothing for free in this world. If you are going to pursue a specific righteous path, it will be to the sacrifice of something. And unfortunately, it came through some personal sacrifice. Wangari Maathai's intense activism led to the breakdown of her marriage in 1979. Her husband cited her strong-minded nature as a reason for divorce, resulting in emotional turmoil and legal battles. So we see it time and time again, right? We see it in the movies, we see it in newspapers, that a specific, so acute and so strong pursuit of agenda often comes to the sacrifice of something that is often precious. And that the question is, what is that balance? She also was battling with health issues. Maathai faced multiple attacks, physical attacks, on a woman, physical, including beatings by police during protest, leading to hospitalization. This was a woman who was beaten by police for saying no to destroying the environment. Her activism also caused significant stress, impacting her health. She had imprisonment and legal issues, which we were talking about, public criticism and isolation. So she essentially was public enemy number one in Kenya during the 1970s and 80s. But despite these challenges, her determination never wavered. So we have a couple of points that we want to go through today. And this kind of ties her story of resilience, her story of overachievement out of kind of where she came from, essentially illiterate, and became a professor and eventually a Nobel laureate. This is a couple of lessons, in my view, that we can definitely take. So let's talk about the tech industry. Let's talk about what I know, where I come from, what I deal with every single day. And before I do that, I think it's quite important that we kind of we just lay it out a little bit. I mean, I think I did a video earlier this week, and I'll put a description above, regarding the state of Lilium and regarding where I work. So for those who are watching this for the first time, I'm Dr. Polan Kantwe. I started this channel regarding just mindset and us, exploring just a different narrative for Africa and trying to pursue kind of the best that we can be in terms of maximizing our potential through the tech industry. So I work for Lilium. I am a flight control engineer. I've been that for many, many years. And the dream of Lilium is, in a way, crashing down in front of us, in front of the whole world, really. And this has been such a turmoil. And overachieving oftentimes feels futile. Overachieving, long hours, feels like what did I do this for in the first place? Am I even in the right industry, right? What am I doing? But in any case, I had so many thoughts going through my head, wondering, what should I do? And it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for a lot of us. It hasn't been easy for our families. But we pursue, we persist. And when I think of this podcast today, it resonates with me personally, because for you to be in the tech industry, you have to overachieve. You have to kind of go beyond your own deficiencies. And that can crash. That can crash, and that can make you think that you were doing it for nothing. And in that video, I really tried to explain that, we have to have a different framing of our thought process, and it is something that we need to consistently be aware of. But it's something that will happen. It's life, and we have to take that into consideration, that oftentimes our overachievement will sometimes amount to nothing, or to very little, or to not as we had hoped. And that is life. That is okay. It is what it is. But I think we have to be okay with that and pursue it nonetheless with balance. So I think in terms of just overachievement, it is competitive. We are in a competitive environment. We employees need to feel like they're adding value all the time. They have to be kind of on all the time, and that's Lilium, right? Lilium is an incredible place of amazing engineers, and it's something that we have to be conscious of. Overachievement is expected, but with balance should be the order of the day. So, of course, what does that mean? It means environments like that, you're open to burnout. I've seen it over the past 4 years of being in Lilium. So many employees kind of booking themselves off due to psychological duress, i.e. burnout. really finished, over and done with, especially because the expectations were not matching with the ability to sustain. And that's not easy, because societal norms, especially with women, and we'll talk about it regarding Wangari Maathai and just how she got to where she got to, and the opposition had a lot to do with her being a woman. And it's the same in tech. Women in tech are oftentimes marginalized. Women in tech are oftentimes, and I see it, oftentimes seen as kind of a second opinion, right? Yeah. Or what's the main opinion? Okay, you can give your opinion, but what's the main opinion? And that main opinion is oftentimes not an opinion of a woman. And that pressure oftentimes drives women and potentially immigrants themselves, because they also have that deficiency, to a superhuman or superwoman syndrome, which can have negative consequences. And that kind of leads me to the gender expectation in leadership and in tech, because I want to speak to the woman in tech right now. And I want to just encourage you, for those of you who are watching, for those of you who are in a managerial role, for those of you who are in a tech lead role, for those of you who are just trying to provide for your family through dealing with technical issues at a highest level every single day. You are worthy. You are worthy. The environment might seem like it does not recognize you. The environment might seem like it does not give a lot of value to your opinion, but you are valued. And myself and all the other guys who kind of pursue the need to push the boundary, I believe, acknowledge that. I believe they want that. And sometimes we just don't know how to say it. Sometimes we don't know how to deal with it. I mean, I was speaking to a woman engineer yesterday, specifically regarding the Lilium situation. And just as a mother, what do you do when you can no longer provide for your family? It's not the same. It's not, and we cannot pretend it's the same as a man. It's not, because a woman's motherly instincts are so much bigger when it comes to providing for one's family, one's children. And that is tough. And so I want to encourage all the women, especially in Lilium and all the other tech industries that are facing a hard time. Just remember, you overworking and you having to prove oneself is not a value of who you truly are and the potential that you can bring. It is something that I know we all have to do, and sometimes we feel like we need to do it to move forward. But I just want to encourage you that at least me, and I'm sure a lot of other people who believe like me, see you and want you to remember that you are valued and you are respected. And at least for me, I will always try and connect as much as I can to the women in tech around me, and just encourage them to know that you are doing well, and that you can help. Your opinion does matter. So that is something that I just thought I should say. For those who are watching, again, thank you so much for following the show, and I'm really excited just on how much the followership has kind of grown in comments and in likes and in shares and in just the community around the WhatsApp. Now we have a WhatsApp community of almost over 100 people. Just incredible growth on the needs that are there, that in my view can be impacted through connecting with different industry experts. And hopefully we can get to the level that we all believe we should, which is really grow and excite the community towards incredible standards for the tech industry in Africa. So it is quite important that we recognize that and we really bring that forward. So Wangari Maathai's lesson on overcoming overachievement, I believe, comes through different ways. It comes through balance and purpose. I think when you have balance, or should I say, let me start with purpose. Purpose oftentimes got nothing to do with personal gain. Let me explain. Purpose, or should I say, purpose that is sustainable beyond you feeling like you're under duress and yet you keep going. That purpose oftentimes is got nothing to do with personal gain. In actual fact, it's counterintuitive. The very purpose that is sustainable over decades is the very purpose that brings you personal loss. That brings you personal loss, but yet brings personal gain in others. And that is kind of the change in mindset when it comes to overachievement. Our overachievement should switch, essentially, if you want it to be sustainable, if you want it to be at the highest level, to who am I doing this for, and not what am I gaining from it. Who am I doing this for, and not what am I gaining from it? Because the balance that can be brought from that purpose is that you are now able to understand when you've achieved it. Because usually personal gain is never enough, as we know. So, but yet your ability to see change in others gives you that balance to know that there is feedback to see that it is working, that it is changing, and that people are seeing the new you through this purpose, and they're seeing themselves as new and change through you acting on that purpose. Purpose and balance is a way to counteract overachievement that could lead to burnout. For me, that is so important because the overachievement can be overcome, but not necessarily by becoming mediocre, but by changing your purpose and finding balance. So that's quite important for me, at least. That really helps me a lot, and that's essentially what Molo Molo is. It's that the purpose is Africa, right? It's not me. I'm in Germany. Who cares about Molo Molo here in Munich, Gilching, right? Nobody cares about Molo Molo, but there's so many students in South Africa, in Nigeria, and whoever else that absolutely crave the need for industry experts like myself and others to give back and to have a purpose to grow and change the mindset of individuals so that they can help their communities grow. So the second kind of tip is to avoid burnout is there should be certain strategies, right? So let's talk about a few of them. One of them is realistic goals. This is a tough one because in the tech industry, the way to avoid burnout is not always clear. Why? Because the goals are always grand. The goals are always big. And that's quite difficult to find that middle ground, right? To find where do I draw the line? Where do I see myself kind of zoning in on what should I be doing. And it's not easy, but I think when you really break down what you need to be doing, and when you need to break down what is really important, and when you are realistic about what can be achieved within the time frame that you have, then obvious goals come up. Then obvious things come up in terms of just focusing on them, even though it may seem you're doing too little. But the fact that you potentially achieve it and achieve it on time or before the deadline is an incredible, incredible feeling of knowing that you can add more. There's lessons to learn when you've done something right. There's lessons to learn when you've done something fast. And there's definitely lessons to learn when you've done something in the right direction. So delegation, but more importantly, setting realistic goals and having self-compassion, right? So this is kind of, again, around the burnout. This is have self-compassion. Know that it's not easy. Right now, again, speaking to my Lilium employees, colleagues, should I say, it is not easy. We need to have self-compassion. We can't beat ourselves down. It's not constructive. It's not constructive to beat yourself down. It's not constructive to walk around and mop around and really have an angry attitude towards people or the world and yourself, because it does seep out to your loved ones. It does seep out, which means does overflow to others, and it's not constructive. So self-compassion on you potentially making mistakes, you pursuing an avenue that didn't actually work out, you pursuing something that, okay, it didn't work out, so let's try and find another avenue that potentially can bring us to a new level or whatever the case may be. So definitely delegation, setting realistic goals, and have some self-compassion for yourself and of course for others. Okay, so now if we were to kind of talk about what does that mean, right? What does that mean in terms of you and I when it comes to overall aspect of superhuman syndrome? Wangari Maathai was a superwoman. She showed to us that she can do incredibly more, as the Bible says, incredibly more than you can possibly hope or imagine. That's essentially who God is. But God acts through people, and He acted through Wangari Maathai. This incredible story of helping us to see that a superhuman can be just out there and really show us the way and be with farmers, be with the lowest of the low, and give them a sense of hope, give them a sense of purpose, give them a sense of understanding that just a little mustard seed, as the Bible says, faith as little as a mustard seed, can move mountains, can change the world, one tree planting at a time, one good decision at a time, one prayer at a time. And you can turn your burnout, your overachievement mentality on stress and personal kind of elevation towards purpose, towards balance, towards being excited for other people to grow. And I think that's so important because you need to be excited, not just for yourself, right? That's what brings balance. That's what brings purpose beyond one's own gain, is you're excited for other people. So that is essentially today's podcast on Molo Molo African Tech Stories. I'm really excited about how we managed to kind of unpack this in different areas. Overachievement and burnout at the workplace is real. Overachievement and having to be a superhuman is real. Women in tech or immigrants in tech are marginalized, and that is real, and we have to recognize it. But there is an African champion, an African legend called Wangari Maathai that proved to us that you can achieve amazing things as a woman from a village, a woman from an African country, and go to the highest echelons of society in getting a Nobel Peace Prize by practicing purpose, by practicing balance, and by practicing having an incredible vision for other people to change the environment. I'm Dr. Palan Kantwe. This is Molo Molo African Tech Stories, where we share incredible stories of African tech champions and innovators that are changing the face of the African continent. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you on the next one.